Good morning and welcome to our daily devotional from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn. Very glad to have you with us on this Thursday morning, February the 19th, 2026. And this week we've been studying the story of the exchange between the woman in the garden, referred to as Eve, and the serpent. And so when we left yesterday, we left off in the story with the woman telling the serpent what God had said about the tree in the middle of the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the instructions and statement that God made that they would not eat of this fruit of the tree and that they would not touch it, and um, that in doing so they would die. So now we have in the story, we come to Genesis chapter 3, verse 4. I'm going to read verses 4 and 5. And this is the serpent's response in the story, and I'll offer a few reflections about this. So this is Genesis chapter 3, verses 4 and 5. But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So this is a very interesting trap that the crafty serpent has set for the woman that she is falling into, and essentially appealing to her desire for wisdom. That is, appealing to her desire to want to know. There wasn't anything particularly wrong with wanting to be like God, at least in some sense. But here, what the serpent has done is tricked the woman into thinking that she could be like God in her wisdom. That is, that knowing the difference between good and evil would somehow be on par with God's understanding or God's knowledge of good and evil. So it's a very tricky moment in the story when the serpent tells her that you will not die, and we'll talk a little bit tomorrow about what actually happens when the woman and the man eat the fruit from the tree, and what it means that they, when their eyes were opened. But I do think that the main point here is this idea that it is our intellect, our wisdom that makes us like God. I think that is one of the central points of this story, the question of what is it that makes us like God? What is it that makes us the image of God? And I think this story is centrally about the temptation, the desire to make the wisdom and the intellect to be what makes us like God. And this story, I think, is a counter to that. That is, that wisdom and our intellect is not actually what makes us like God. So we'll talk about that a bit more tomorrow. The serpent has certainly set her up, and she is falling into the trap over her desire for wisdom and knowledge. Let's close with this word of prayer from W.E. Orchard. Gracious God of our spirits, if pride of thought and careless speculation have made us doubtful of Thee, recover for us the simplicity that understands Thou art never surer than when we doubt Thee, that through all failures of faith Thou becomest clearer, and so makest the light that once we walked by seem but darkness. Help us then to rest our faith on the knowledge of our imperfection, our consciousness of our own ignorance, our sense of weakness and limitations, and to see in these the shadow cast by the light of Thy cross, in which Jesus displayed the weakness of humanity and the suffering that was glorified by Thee. If Thy purposes have crossed our own and Thy will has broken ours, enable us to trust the wisdom of Thy perfect love rather than our own wisdom, and find Thy will to be our peace. So lead us back to meet Thee where we may have missed Thee. Amen. Thank you for joining me this morning from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn, and I hope that you have a very good day. Goodbye.